Scott, thank you for joining us on the InRoads podcast. Appreciate you being here.
Good to be with you.
The purpose of our conversation is to learn a little bit about you and the successes that you've had and take that a little bit further, diving into the fabric of the person that you are that got you there. So let's start with, tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing today and lead up to that from where you started.
All right, I'll go from where I started. So thanks for having me. Of course, good to be with you and your audience. I was raised on the Eastern Shore of Maryland by a single mother, working on a farm and paying taxes by age 11.
Wow.
And then left that, I guess we'll get into our shared history and big brothers and big sisters, but left that small town to join the Navy about a month after high school with the goal of becoming a Navy SEAL, and was able to get through training unharmed. Spent about 8.5 years in the Navy SEAL teams all throughout South and Central America doing counter-drug and teaching host nation special forces stuff, and then went to the war in Iraq. Finished up my time in the SEAL teams, did some entrepreneurial stuff like real estate, went to Yemen in and out of Yemen for 4 years doing security consulting, and then got into politics. Don't ask me how. I'm not sure which profession's more dangerous, the SEAL teams or politics, but I spent some time as a state congressman in Virginia and then a U.S. congressman as well, and now I am the president of the bilateral trade group, the U.S. Qatar Business Council.
Wow. So that is massive. And it is really impressive. And the idea that the theme that I imagine that would carry from each of those journeys is a lot of fortitude and a lot of danger, thus a lot of bravery, I imagine.
If you're going to be dumb, you better be hard.
You're going to be dumb. That's going to get quoted. You know that, right? So if you were driving in the car and you had your 5-year-old self in the back seat, what would your 5-year-old self be most surprised by?
My 5-year-old self, that's a little tough because it's a little, 5 years old. I guess if I was looking back and being a 5-year-old and saying, wow, in my future, some of the things I just mentioned, where I'm from and where people go from where I'm from, usually they stay there, of course. But I think becoming a Navy SEAL would have been a big thing. Becoming a father, as you know, of course, my son is the biggest accomplishment in my life. Also, using my GI Bill and getting an undergrad and a master's degree from Harvard University, I definitely wouldn't have thought that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then getting elected to U.S. Congress, going from the cornfields in Hebron, Maryland, to the halls of Congress it would be a big thing, I think, for a 5-year-old looking at his future.
Looking ahead. And so do you think that what it took for you to go into each of those moments, do you think that is more nature or is it more nurture?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think one starts out with the core of who you are, of course, and then you utilize mentorships as well as the things in your environment to help you reach your potential and whatever it is that is your goal. And I think in between each of the big things that I've accomplished in my life, I've kind of looked around. I'm like, oh, what's next? Kind of what am I going to do? And then eventually sort of settled on some sort of goal. And then I think in the nature piece of it, rather than the nurture, I have a sort of incredible discipline and maybe some would say hard-headedness, but also I have a very strong mind, I think. Yeah. And then I'm sure we'll get into this, but with each success, it was always little teeny steps over and over and over again that led up to the success, which takes discipline and focus and stuff like that. But certainly, again, between those big accomplishments, there was a lack of focus, if you will, all over the place until I was focused, and then I knew what I was going to do once I set upon it.
Then you knew what was next. So if you imagine you're in this car and you have a GPS system, right? The GPS system is the map that tells you where to go. And all of us have an internal GPS, essentially your character, your morals, and your ethics.
Sure.
Where over the course of this journey have your morals and ethics either been enhanced and affirmed or really challenged?
Am I still 5 years old?
Nope, you're an adult now.
That's good.
You're a little bit farther down the journey.
So I think, I try to keep an open mind, and I'm constantly learning, and I'm very curious by nature. So I think I think in general you have this sort of this moral compass, that things that you were taught, whether it's your mother teaching you manners and stuff like that, but also along the way, my thoughts certainly have adjusted, and not my moral compass necessarily, but just my understanding of the world around me certainly changed because of the diverse and broad things that I've been exposed to all around the world, quite frankly. So I think I'm constantly learning, and I'm open to constantly learning and making sure that my moral compass is pointing in the right direction.
Right. So you're seeing different perspectives as you grow in scope and enroll and in different places of the world, and different responsibilities and things that are up against you that you have to sort of make sure that that's tested, like you said, and you're still staying on point with what that is. But what that brings you is that propulsion and momentum to keep moving forward, which helps you reach your goals. Now,
and sometimes you realize, okay, what you thought was you were doing the right thing moving forward, and then your perspective changes, right? And you're like, not that you're doing the wrong thing suddenly, but it just doesn't matter as much.
Right.
Right.
And that goes back to the being open to learning
and
listening to whatever that intuition is or whatever the data inputs are that help guide you, and being in tune with that, which I think is one of the things that people have a big challenge with, is staying aligned with what that goal is and who they are and those external forces. Because talk about external forces of the background that you've had some legitimate real life external forces against you.
Sure.
And one of those is what's actually internal. And so when your character is tested through situations like this, if you were to talk about the character attributes that you would need to get through some of the history that you've done, what characteristic traits would you say helped you get through that?
Competitiveness. Again, the ability to focus on things. The lack, well, not the lack, but the never quit attitude.
Yeah.
Of course, when you talk about the SEAL teams, you're talking about 70 to 75% attrition rate for the people who actually get there. That's not even including the folks who try to get there that didn't get there.
Yeah.
So you have to have this just incredible will to succeed and will to get through whatever it is that you're doing. And so I don't know exactly where that comes from. Sometimes I try to contemplate, okay, let me look in the past and figure out were there some external forces that sort of helped me get that sort of mentality or attitude, and I don't know yet. But definitely the will to win, never quit attitude, the ability to focus when you need to focus, and then I think again I have an insatiable curiosity, so I learn a lot, and I'm able to associate different things with a lot of perspectives, and I think that's been very helpful for me in being successful as well.
And then you can connect where the dots align.
Absolutely.
And whether
that's networking with people or whether that's just with things or both.
Moments or situations.
Absolutely.
And that either helps. It's like if you look at the windshield, it's bigger in front of us for a reason, because that's driving where you're headed. The rearview mirror is where you look back and you decide if you need to speed up, slow down, change lanes, just quick little glances. But it helps give you that context from a peripheral standpoint.
Everybody has that in their mind, and your mind is this massive supercomputer that's constantly associating things all day long, right? Yep. And some people are more open to doing that than others, right? Yep. And for me, I've always been open to those associations that help me connect dots. Whether it's people, whether it's in business, whether it's in war, whatever it might be. I think it's necessary that you keep an open mind for that.
So with that's something that I think when you talk about being in war, whether it's being in war the way that you've discussed it, or whether it's a business at war against external customer or competitor headwinds, or somebody's at war with themselves as an entrepreneur trying to build a business and they're not sure if it's going to work. The idea that there's this conflict, you've actually been in and around real conflict. So it almost seems as though your history and what you've done comes with such bravery, but there had to have been times that you were afraid of failure or that something would go wrong. Where was that?
I think every significant thing that I've done, I've always been, there's fear there, right? Yeah. I wrestled growing up. I can remember, even if I knew I was going to beat the guy in like 30 seconds, I'm still super nervous.
Yeah.
I don't think fear is a bad thing. When I was jumping out of an airplane, there's fear there, right? It's not the fear, as long as you don't let fear stop you completely or make you freeze. You still, you have to be calm in chaos. You can be scared. In fact, I think that's helpful sometimes because it sort of gives you a heightened sense of awareness. Right. And so that can help with making sure that you complete the details necessary to whatever the job is. So fear is fine, and I embrace fear. I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it. Totally calm in chaotic situations, and I think that's what you have to be. You just have to push through it. But anyway, I mean, I think that when you mention entrepreneurs, and I mean you deal with businesses all the time, and I'm sure there are folks that are entrepreneurs or business owners that are will want to start businesses that are going to watch this and listen to this podcast, and so It's a scary thing. It's super scary. When you put everything on the line for something that you believe in, that you want to start and be successful and maybe have a family, whatever it is. It's like, it's super scary, very scary. But nothing is ever as bad as you think it's going to be. And nothing's ever as good as you think it's going to be either.
That's true. That's
right?
a good point, yeah.
And one of the great things about this country specifically is who gives a shit?
Yeah.
So you fail. Well, get back up, dust your knees off, and keep moving forward. And you probably will fail, but you're going to be better for it as long as you don't dwell on and freeze for the next thing.
Yeah.
I've actually, this goes back to the question that you asked me. I have failed at everything I've ever been successful at.
Okay.
Period. And I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You learn a hell of a lot more from your failures than you do your successes.
Yeah.
So to me, failure is just it's part of life. It's part of the deal. And it's a great educational tool.
Absolutely. I love how you put that. I love that. If you were to define on the flip side of that success, everybody thinks that they're on this journey and they're going to arrive to success and they're going to reach a landing point. And I think we've all seen that. That's just not how it works. There's evolutions and periods of success, but we all define it differently. So how would you define what success is?
And this is one of those things that sort of have changed throughout my life, and I imagine that's going to be the same with everybody. What you think is that you're successful, and there's been plenty of times when I've reached a goal, or which is great. And there's like euphoria for a second there, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
I think to be successful in life, period, and life is precious, and you never know how much time you have. Are you happy with yourself? Number one, 100%. Are you happy? Are you confident in who you are as a person? Have you your moral compass? All those things that go into that. Are you okay? Are you good with your family, your kids, whatever? To me, that is being a good father, being someone that my family and my friends like. To me, is more important. Those things make me more successful than any money that I'm ever going to make.
Yeah.
All along the way, I like to, of course, achieve goals and stuff like that, just because I like doing that. Those are great, but they're also temporary successes, as you alluded to. The biggest thing to me in life is what I said. I mean, that's really. If my family likes me, they want to hang with me. If Sterling, my son, when he's old, when we're older, Jay and I are older or something, he still wants to hang with us. Okay, I'm successful.
Yeah, then that's what that works. It's a different intrinsic value that doesn't have anything to do with the superficiality of what the external culture or pressures may be. And I think that is back to the alignment of being who you are and listening to the intuition.
Are you happy? You maybe make $1 million a year. Maybe you make $50,000 a year. Are you enjoying life? Are you enjoying your family? Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
Are you you look yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm kind of happy, I'm cool with the $50,000 a month, or I'm cool with $1 million. I mean, there's plenty of people who have tons of money who are so unhappy, and I would argue that is not what success looks like.
Well, and that's what my next question is where do you think people get the idea of success wrong? Because
they think it's things, it's money, it's do I have a Lamborghini or something like that, and that's not success. It's just not. It's just a thing,
You mentioned giving back and talking about the Big Brothers program that you were in. So there's a part of you that also intrinsically is connected to service and to giving to others. So talk to me about that attribute and how you think that's made you successful as well.
So let's go back a second in time, right? As we share this. We're both littles, if you will.
Littles, yeah.
I met when I was 11 years old. I was on probation. I was, going down the wrong path. Not that I was like some killer or something like that. I just had a single mother who was always in the hospital working. She worked at the hospital, so I had a lot of free time, and so I was getting in trouble, and I had no direction, and I had no, male influence that was really helping me and mentoring me. So I got signed up for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so I remember the day I met Andy, my big brother, who's 83 now. Wow. I'm sitting with my sister. We're on a couch. Andy walks in with this lady, Gigi, who was like setting it up. And I just remember looking at him, like at the time he was 51, 52. And And I'm like, God, this guy's old. Like, what the hell are we going to have in common? He's just old. He's gray haired,
Yeah.
But that guy changed the whole trajectory of my life. I mean, literally everything. Like, you wouldn't even be speaking to me right now if it wasn't for that guy. He happened to like sports. He was a coach. I played a lot of sports. And fast forward when I graduated high school, he said, "Do you know why I picked you?" And I said, "Well, I didn't know you picked me. What do you mean? I thought they matched us up."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, they matched me up with 3 people when each one of you wrote a letter. Do you remember writing a letter?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember writing a letter. I'm 17 now. That was when I was 11." And so he said, "In your letter," and let me preface this by saying, again, my mother was always working. I played sports. No one was there, for my games. And he said, "In your letter, you wrote, I just want someone to come to my games."
Oh.
I told you that's gonna make you cry. And so that guy came to every single match, every single game that he could, my whole time in high school and before high school and everything like that. And just the fact that he showed up, didn't have to say anything, right? Like just showing up is the big thing. So, but there's so much more, and I know we don't have enough time to go into it of how he changed my life, but that he changed. There would be no Harvard, there would be no Navy SEAL stuff, there would be no Congress if it wasn't for Andy, my big brother.
Do you think it was him validating a part of your worth that you felt but hadn't yet been reflected?
100%, 100%. Again, it's just being there and instilling confidence and self-worth. I think a lot of kids don't have that, and there's no way I would have left that little small town probably if it wasn't for Andy validating me, instilling confidence and self-worth in me, to where I had the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to go be a damn Navy SEAL.
Right.
I never mind. I didn't even know what that really meant when I was in high school. I just knew it was hard.
It's that even adults nowadays have issue with self-worth. And back to the entrepreneurial, there's a lot of people that struggle with how much do I charge, or they'll undercut because they feel like their services aren't valued the right way. And there's a lot of struggle where they believe that they have something to offer, but they don't know how to claim it. And that starts with somebody saying, "I see you, and I'm here for you," like you said, even if I don't say anything. And that can make a huge difference. Sounds like he was a great mentor to you.
The best. I I still speak to him every day. I just texted with him earlier.
Oh, that's awesome. Now you have to tell me you mentioned him. Hi, Andy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were on this journey...
Let me say one more thing about that, because this is important, I think, for anybody that's out there listening, who's on his side, right, the mentor side. If you spoke to Andy today, he would tell you that he got more out of it than I did.
Yeah.
Which I disagree with 100%, but he would say that to you. I got more out of this than Scott got.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible when you think about it.
You and I talked before that I have a big and I was a little, and we've had the longest standing history of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Central Florida. We used to get awards for it, and it's so funny you say that because she would say the same thing. And I think there's that element of living outside of yourself and being connected to some bigger purposes that are less egocentric and more, whether it's servant or whether it's giving back or whether it's giving time, whatever it may be, some of that, it just seems to come back to you in a way that helps pave more of that road for success for people. Sometimes people think you just have to have grit and work hard. And like you said, there's people that chase either the paycheck or the title or whatever it may be, and it's not ever fulfilling, and they're not going to get.
That's the thing. You might achieve those things, but it might not be fulfilling.
It's that listening to your story, going from where you went, you had this drive to accomplish goals. Like intrinsically, you were trying to achieve something, and then the next, and then the next. And that is an eternal fortitude and drive that money can't buy, right?
Sure.
The experiences can shape and reaffirm it, and people like Andy can see it, and that's how you end up continuing forward. That's your fuel, so to speak. So if you were to look at this whole driving analogy, everybody's got a tank. The tank gets empty sometimes. What would you recommend people do for the need to refill their tank mentally and emotionally?
I think that varies for each person and what makes them feel recharged. But everybody should just sit, self-reflect and like, hey, what gives me more energy, right? Is it being around my friends and family? For me, it's probably a couple things. I have a set of friends that I'm still close to that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. That no matter, it wouldn't matter if I was the president of the United States, they would still give me shit, right? If my head got too big, they'd pop that bubble pretty quickly. Yeah. But I love them. I love them, and I love laughing with them. My stomach hurts when I'm laughing with them. I love being around them. And I also love travel, right? So I like to, when I lost my race in Congress, for example. I needed to get away, to recharge and refocus. And I literally flew to Barranquilla, Colombia, right? So I spent a lot of time in South America, like South America. Barranquilla is like this little, industrial city on the coast of Colombia. You wouldn't go there for vacation.
Yeah.
But I did, but just to relax and get away. And no one knows me.
Right.
So I think whatever refills your battery, and it's going to be a little bit different for each person, but you need that in your life, and I can't go too long without hanging out with those friends.
Yeah.
I talk to them on the phone every day, but it's not the same thing. I got to go see them, and when I leave them, number one, I miss them, of course, but I'm recharged. I'm happy, which can enable me to let go of things that might be bothering me, and then refocus.
And it goes back to that paradigm shift where you get different perspectives once you get farther and farther away. It's more in the rearview mirror, and it seems to matter less at that point.
Again, nothing is as bad as it seems. Nothing's as good as it seems.
Yeah.
It's always somewhere in between, right? And people, honestly, like, it really paralyzes a lot of people when they have big failures. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous to be paralyzed with a failure, or you have the ability to move forward. You're not dead. You keep moving forward.
Yeah. If somebody doesn't have an Andy, or where they don't necessarily feel seen, what would you recommend that they do to self-validate in a way?
I don't know about self-validate, because I think that's, again, that's going to be personality driven. Because I had that validation from Andy so early, like I don't even need it, from anybody. I don't need validation from anyone. Right. Now I'm totally fine. But obviously there was a time when I did, at that age, and that could be different for different people at certain times in their life. But I would say, listen, when you look at mentors and how to find mentors, there are tons of people out there who usually it tends to be folks that are a little bit older. Like they want to give you their wisdom. They'll talk to you all day long about stuff. Mm-hmm. Some of it you might be like, oh geez, but there's probably great nuggets in there somewhere. Yeah. So I mean, I would just, if I needed something, or needed whether it was validation, and maybe I'm doing a new business or something like that, I need validation in that what I'm doing is okay, or is it sucks, or whatever. Just reach out to people and have no fear in reaching out to people and trying to get their feedback. And you would be surprised when you ask for something how much you get.
Yeah, and
most people just don't ask.
Right, and the worst they say is no, and then you just go ask
and
somebody
who cares?
else. And
just go ask somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you were to be looking in the rear view at the end for you, and you were to be the final destination, looking back and saying, okay, this journey was what it was supposed to be, what would you see? I've
thought about this a lot before, because unfortunately I've buried a lot of my friends, right, from war. So I've had understood the finite time frame of life from a very early age. In fact, it's interesting. Andy, who's 83 now, he's 40 years older than me. A few years ago, his friends started to die. Because they're 80 some years old, and life takes its course. And so we were having this conversation, and I found myself sort of consoling Andy about losing his close friends, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because I was like in my early late 20s, early 30s.
But you'd seen it a lot.
Yeah, of course. I've already buried more than I'd wish on anybody, and so I've thought about this a lot, and if it was tomorrow was the end, would I be content with where I've been? And I think the answer is 100% yes, because I have used my time, of course, first and foremost, my son, being there for him as much as I could possibly, and then and my friends and the people that I care about and love, and but also the serving other people. I think that you get the most when you give.
Yeah.
And you get the most out of it when you give. And again, Andy, I go back to his example, that he feels like he got more than he gave, which is crazy to me. But whether I serve my community, my country, or our friends, or our family, I feel like, yes, I have given a lot more than I've taken. And so if the end was tomorrow, then I'm
You
content.
feel like you've filled your purpose. What was the advice you gave to Andy when you were consoling him?
How much time we got? No, it was just, I think it wasn't advice per se. It was just being there for him, and we, having conversation, we're talking about it. It was just sort of the same thing that he did for me. And that was showing up and being there and listening, listening to him and listening to his old stories and with his friends, of course, and like that.
Knowing that he was heard.
Of course.
And that went full circle.
Yeah.
Both of you. That's pretty awesome. Well, we are really, really grateful for your stories and for you sharing. I appreciate you coming on because it's a perspective that on paper, and this is the point of it, on paper, you could have a certain belief about what it takes, but what's fascinating is the thought and the person that you are underneath. It led to some of these roads, but it led to so much bigger of an impact to your family and to the communities and to the people that you've come across. And that's really where I think the heart of the matter is, making sure that you're going after that alignment with what matters and what you were when you started on the farm and what you went through to what you've done now. Every step has led you to be able to impact more and more. And that's the legacy, like leaving the legacy work that is very, very profound. If you were to leave this podcast with one little nugget of wisdom on anything.
Don't pee in the wind.
There we go.